For centuries, mystics have spoken of a fabled, terrible-sounding transmutation of consciousness called the dark night of the soul. This traumatic epoch is not a punishment, but it's unavoidable for human beings, including the holiest of holy ones. In fact, it's only the spiritually committed who are guaranteed a dark night at some point in their lifetimes. The spiritually oblivious can function comfortably in a state of darkness. In fact, it's the light that scares them and drives them into hiding. Even the partially enlightened are drawn to the light magnetically. They can't help it, causing all of the darkness inside of them to look on itself and see the threat to its own survival. I don't know about you, but I prefer the word spirit to soul. In religion, language, and culture, the soul is a heavy and fearsome concept linked to all sorts of terrifying shit. It's described paradoxically as a thing you possess, and also a totally personalized encapsulation of you, which carries with it your entire cosmic fate. You can sell your soul for a fistful of coins, or misbehave in countless ways and condemn your soul for eternity. It's not physical, and yet it can somehow be punished, confined, and even lost. Spirit, on the other hand, is light, increasing its lightness the more freely it is shared. It's entirely you, and also more than you, knowing its only function is to extend and join with others. To be in spirit is to be inspired, and inspiration is shared as freely as laughter. It's not limited, it's universal. A dark night of the spirit does not exist, because spirit could never perceive itself in darkness. It exists only in the light, hiding nothing and from nothing. To be dispirited is to imagine your reality as something other than spirit. And that is the genesis of the dark night of the soul. The darker the dark night, the greater the incentive to awaken. It's most analogous to the exquisitely awful moment after a drunken binge right before you vomit. So intense is the agony, the mind falls completely silent, too nauseated to form a thought, and yet terribly alert. The puking itself is both anguish and relief, a living death, and the immediate aftermath opens a door not seen in ordinary existence. The sickness in this analogy is the karmic weight of an entire belief system, a way of life, a whole world arising from a single thought, that I must find love outside of myself. Which means that love is a thing that can be lost, and no lesson is darker than this. The deeper the suffering, the more likely the mind is to purge its beliefs about reality, to humbly ask, what if I have been wrong? The world we live in profits paradoxically both by creating darkness and delaying the darkest of the dark nights of the soul, thereby delaying your spiritual awakening. Sustainable darkness should be the slogan of the corporations. And ascetics are wonderful and probably necessary to sustain life. So vast is the suffering in this world. But the drunkard must also expel his guts to save himself. And on each expulsion ponder, does the peace I seek exist somewhere I've not looked? Does it exist in me? The true dark night, the last night, is the penultimate step on one's spiritual homecoming. The ego is the most complex, deceptive, intelligent organism in the history of the universe. It somehow convinced you that misery is joy, hatred is strength, gentleness is weakness, and oneness is death. No cult has ever attracted more followers who kneel at the altar of a more shameless liar. The glistening light seen in the first dawn following the darkest night reveals the true countenance of this tin pot dictator, an emperor with no clothes, whose bored decrees have lost all authority. In the grip of the terror this engenders, one can either cower or exult. The greater the self-honesty, the greater the courage, Once you see that you are not surrendering anything good or bad, but simply untrue, that is when you know the dark night is over and a new morning has come.